Where was London? Where was London?
Oh, we love him. Jerry Brown.
He can hold a note. John and Ken show.
Pretty cool. He should be on The Voice.
Anybody who lies like that should not be listened to.
No?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. KFI AM 640 and the Lion Jerry Brown.
Well, yeah, this is frustrating. We're going to spend a lot of time this hour on Jerry Brown. And there's reasons you got to hear this. I mean, probably just play that the whole hour. He
really made that sound.
It's one thing that he's obsessed over high-speed rail and climate change. But they're not as dangerous as this Prop 57. They're just not. This Prop 57, which is all his, by the way, he's putting a lot of money into it from his campaign coffers. He's got all his buddies donating money to pass Prop 57. This is an immediate danger. This is going to lead to even more prisoners being let out early. They're going to make it very easy to get parole, even though they like to tell you in the commercials, well, they'll have to appear before a parole board, and they're real tough. They don't just let anybody go.
His commercials are lies. The title of this is a lie. The paragraphs that explain this, that summarize this issue, is a lie. And he knows, obviously, he's won a lot of elections. He knows what works. He knows people are ignorant, stupid, distracted, all those things. And what you do is you get your message out first. And then the other side is forever playing catch-up. His message, and in the top line of this proposition, it's the Safe Neighborhoods and Rehabilitation Act.
Yeah, well, his buddy Kamala Harris is like, yeah, that's a good one. I'll approve that.
That's right. Kamala Harris is in on the conspiracy.
Yeah.
And once you have that as your title, unless the opposition has $1 billion, that starts out being the number one impression in people's heads. They're not going to know the details. They're not going to read the details. They're going to vote based on the title and on the radio and television commercials where Jerry Brown expands upon that idea, that this is about safe neighborhoods, safe streets. It's about letting out 30,000 prisoners, violent prisoners, convicted of violent felonies. And I use that term, you have to understand. The word violent felony only applies to 23 crimes.
That's what we're going to get into.
And finally, the LA Times printed the disparity between what Jerry Brown considers a violent crime and what district attorneys consider a violent crime.
And Jerry Brown's response is priceless to tell you all you need to know about him. Yeah, the Times just did a story why Governor Jerry Brown is staking so much on overhauling prisoner parole, which also kind of just, that headline itself kind of softens the dangers of Prop 57.
Why Jerry Brown wants to release 30,000 prisoners into your neighborhoods. That's the truth of it. That's what can happen.
Exactly. Even Jackie Lacey's quoted in here, the LA County DA. They're recommending release of people we never would have expected would have occurred so soon. I'm concerned about people who really haven't served a significant amount of time. Now, the one thing you need to know, the No side is full of law enforcement people, DAs, police officer organizations. They know. They deal with this every day in their jobs. That's why they know this is dangerous. Who's on Jerry Brown's side? Jerry Brown, his Democrat friends, and a few law enforcement people that are soft for Jerry Brown. But that's it. But they have a lot of money. There's a lot of money. Now, I got an email yesterday from a listener, and this is good, and we're going to put it up on the voter guide. He wanted to know how we could help and donate to the No side, because you're hearing commercials on KFI, but I'm not seeing as many on TV. I don't think they have a lot of money. So it is stop57.com. That's pretty easy to remember. It's a pretty good website. I was just scrolling through it. Stop57.com. We'll have that up there on the voter guide under Prop 57, an easy link for you to use. Now let's go back to this LA Times story on Jerry Brown. And the reason, and this is why this is the most alarming, Prop 57 would make significant changes to the state's criminal justice framework. And among the changes would be the definition, or at least as regards this proposition, what is considered to be a serious or violent, actually the reverse of that, a nonviolent offender. And your mic is off.
Turns out that there's only 23 defined violent crimes in California's penal code. 23, and some of them are obvious: murder, sex abuse of a child, kidnapping. That's among the 23. But even the Los Angeles Times says, in many ways, the list is porous. Not all rape crimes are considered violent. And prosecutors said there's really 125 serious, dangerous crimes that would be eligible for parole.
And the website lists them. We've mentioned them before. Rape by intoxication, rape of an unconscious person, human trafficking involving a sex act with minors, drive-by shooting, assault with a deadly weapon, taking a hostage, domestic violence involving trauma, lewd acts on a child, hate crime causing physical injury, failing to register as a sex offender, arson causing great bodily injury. That's part of it. It says partial list. That's what we're talking about here. Think of this
in the real world terms. Your wife could be knocked unconscious and raped in your front yard. The perpetrator did not commit a violent crime, and he can be let out early. Your house could be set on fire, and you could suffer burn injuries. That guy could be let out early. Somebody could drive by and shoot at your house from the window of his car. That's not a violent crime. He'll be let out early. Think about if this happened to your house and your family. The rape, the sexual abuse, the shooting, the arson. They could try to detonate a bomb at your kid's school. That's not a violent crime. The difference between what Jerry Brown thinks is a violent crime and what's really a violent crime, 122 crimes. The prosecutors say there's 125 violent crimes. Jerry Brown says there's only 23. So the other 102 crimes, Jerry Brown's going to let prisoners out early, even though they're clearly violent, dangerous, serious offenses. 102. And then he'll tell you on the radio and on television that this is about safe neighborhoods and rehabilitation.
His response is, well, they created the damn violent list. If they thought some crime should have been violent and not just serious, tack it on. But they didn't, because this came out of a 2000 juvenile punishment ballot measure that was backed by some DAs. So I think the Jerry Brown people thought, let's use that list to describe violent, dangerous felons, and let's ignore the other 125 possibilities.
Jerry Brown's defense of letting a rapist out early as well, it's not on the list.
That's right.
Go put it on the list.
That's what it is.
Well, that's an obscene, absurd response.
When
a rape is a rape.
Yeah, when any person, felon, discharging a firearm on school grounds, taking a hostage, as I mentioned, drive-by shooting.
Arson.
And rape of an unconscious person, which is the big one coming out of the Stanford
Assault
story.
with a deadly weapon.
You ask most people, do you consider that to be a serious, dangerous, violent offense?
Saying
yeah.
It's only violent if it's on the list, according to him. If it's not on his
Because that's
list.
how they get to the number they want for guys they want to release. That's what they did. They said, look around. We've only got dangerous people left in the state prisons. How can we find a way legally to put this on the ballot with the list of violent crimes we want and only that list?
But this is George Orwell stuff. All these stuff is vicious, violent, terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
Victims are injured, shattered,
Somebody probably
scarred.
said to Jerry Brown, if we go with the whole list and nobody's getting out.
Well,
then,
yeah, right. Yeah,
right, then we got to find a way around that.
That's the whole point of the prison. So this is so crazy. This Prop 57 is the biggest fraud I've ever seen. This is a massive fraud.
We got to find a way to beat it. We got to find somebody with big pockets that's going to put money into a TV campaign to point all this out. That's on this website, stop57.com. All right, coming up next, the other side of Jerry Brown that's fake and phony and kicking the can down the road and sweeping stuff under the rug as his phony pension reform from 5 years ago.
Jerry Brown lies continue. John and Ken Show, KFI, Heather Jordan is news.